So hello class, let's begin the next part of the same chapter. The revisional part actually started, we had a discussion about some of the important lectures and terms, technology about the same chapter, and related this, we had actually discussion about what are the some basic concepts about the chapters. Like you can see the electrochemical cells, electrolytic cells, electrode potentials, standard electrode potential, how to calculate the standard cell potential. You can see there is written E naught Mn plus 2m and E naught M2 plus 2m2. Actually, I have taken two different metals electrode, M1 and M2. And you can see there is a reduction also. There is a reduction. So simply we can compare if any electrode having high reduction potential value in standard condition. If any electrode having high electrode potential value in standard condition, then the electrode can behave like cathode. There will be reduction and called oxidizing agent. Simply, we have to be just learn any one of the electrode, and the other electrode must be the opposite of that. The opposite of that, the other electrode will be opposite of that. Simply now, higher reduction potential value must be act like cathode, must be having a reduction in the terms, and can act like an oxidizing agent. This is all about what we had discussion yesterday. There is the cell representation, and from which we can write the Nernst equation from the by helping of the cell representation. Actually, the cell represent the left side with anode with aqueous value, the concentration of second electrode in cathode, the concentration must be given, and from which we can calculate the value of Q, the reaction quotient easily. The N will be the number of electrons involved in the redox process. As we had this discussion about that, we can easily calculate E naught cell by the formula of this. And for that, we have the value of reduction potential of two different electrodes. Always reduction potential value has to be given, and you can calculate E naught cell that can be put in the formula of Nernst equation. If you wish to calculate the equilibrium constant in the terms of concentration, you can use this formula E naught cell equal to 0.059 upon N log K. Simply now, where again the N will be a number of electron transferred or number of electron involved in the redox process. K will be equilibrium constant, and to calculate K, you have to be just go with the anti-log. Anti-log, you can see now, if we are having a naught cell, then we can easily calculate K by taking anti-log of the whole value. Delta org indicating the Gibbs free energy change for any given reaction. R stand here, reaction, G means Gibbs energy, delta means change in Gibbs free energy, which can be calculated with the help of Faraday constant and same E cell value. If you wish to calculate delta or G naught, means in standard condition, you have to be used the E naught cell value for the same question or the same equation. There is a relation of the cell potential with pH of the any electrochemical cell, electrolytic cell. There is a relation. E cell equal to 0.059 into pH in negative side. This is all about the first part. That was the study lecture. Now we have actually the second part, which includes the electrolytic cell. Actually, we have to discuss about what is about the resistance. How can we calculate resistance from any electrolytic cell by using Ohm's law formula? But actually, this is the actual formula which is used in the electricity unit in physics to calculate the resistance. But if you wish to calculate resistance for electrochemical cell, electrolytic cell, you have to use Wheatstone bridge. By using Wheatstone bridge, you can calculate the value of resistance. By using Wheatstone bridge, you can calculate the value of resistance. And with the help of value of resistance, you can calculate resistivity, then conductivity, kappa. Kappa, which is called conductivity of any electrolytic cell. Conductivity means the conductivity is actually define the conducting power of any electrolytic cell in a particular unit length and cross section area. So where is formula here? L upon A is actually stand for a cell constant. So if we are knowing the cell constant, then we can easily calculate resistivity, and opposite of that there is called conductivity, the reciprocal of resistivity. This is called cell constant. For any given electrolytic cell, the cell constant is always will be a constant. With the help of this formula, we can enter in the terms of molar conductivity and equivalent conductivity, which actually indicate the conducting power of all ions furnished by 1 mole of any electrolyte. The conducting power of all ions furnished by 1 mole of electrolyte, or the conducting power of all ions furnished by 1 gram equivalence. So there is only difference. We have taken 1 gram equivalence concentration for equivalent conductivity and 1 molar concentration for molar conductivity, due to which we can calculate kappa from the previous formulas, and with the help of molar concentration and equivalent concentration, we are able to calculate the value of del m, lambda m and lambda eq. Class, actually molar conductivity and conductance, there is a very fine difference among them. Conductance means the ease of flow of charge through electrolyte. Any electrolyte, when there will be a flowing of charge, it must be having a tendency to conduct electricity through them. So ease of flow of charge through electrolyte is actually indicating the conducting power, conductance of the same electrolyte. But conductivity is a specific value of the same conductance per unit length and per unit area of the cross section. So there is only a difference of conductance and conductivity is about specificity. The per unit value is called conductivity for the same conductance. And for when we use the molar terms or equivalent terms, this is actually a more standard than a previous one. The molar conductivity or equivalent conductivity is all about what amount of solute we are actually using for a conduction of any electrolytic cell. What amount of solute we are adding. If there is 1 molar substance, 1 molar substance or 1 gram equivalence, we can use molar conductivity and equivalent conductivity all about. There is a difference when there is a difference of the different substance. Meaning, suppose we are taking 2 different substances, and one substance is strong electrolyte, the other substance is weak electrolyte. So strong electrolyte must be furnished more ions in the solution comparatively a weak electrolyte. So molar conductivity for same number of mole A strong electrolyte will be a greater value than a weak electrolyte, because always the conductivity in the solution, conductivity in the solution depends upon the number of ions and ease of flowing. Means how what is the extent of flowing the ions from one electrode to the another electrodes, and what are the numbers of ions which are going to flow through the electrolyte. So number of ions flowing and ease of flowing, means flowing tendency, will develop the conducting power across the electrode immersed in electrolytes. So always whatever the electricity or conducting power will be, this is all about the number of ions, the number of charge, and the flowing tendency of the charge. That's why all these things are vary according to the strong electrolyte or weak electrolyte. I'm writing here alpha. The written terms alpha means extent of dissociation or extent of ionization, called degree of dissociation or degree of ionization. Class, every electrolytes having some tendency what extent it will be ionized in the solution. As I told earlier, the weak electrolyte having low tendency to be ionized than a strong one. So alpha is actually indicating the tendency of ionize of any electrolyte. So for a strong electrolyte, alpha will be a nearly 1. Alpha will be nearly 1. And for weak electrolyte, alpha will be less than 1. That is indicating lambda m and lambda m naught, where lambda m naught actually indicating the limiting molar conductivity. Limiting molar conductivity, which means the maximum molar conductivity for any given electrolyte. For any given electrolyte, what is the maximum molar conductivity? That is called a limiting molar conductivity. As I told, a strong electrolyte is going for a complete ionization, almost complete ionization. So there is not any large difference between molar conductivity and limiting molar conductivity for a strong electrolyte. There will be a similarity. The value will be similar for a strong electrolyte. So alpha will be nearly 1. But for weak electrolyte, there is a large difference between molar conductivity and the limiting molar conductivity. Because on dilution, the conductivity of the weak electrolyte increases sharply. On dilution, conductivity of a weak electrolyte increases sharply. So simply, there will be a big difference between molar conductivity and limiting molar conductivity. The question is, how can we calculate the maximum molar conductivity or limiting molar conductivity for weak electrolyte? Because this is another section, another part of the same chapter called Kohlrausch's law. So class, actually by using strong electrolyte, we can calculate the molar conductivity of a weak electrolyte also. Always the nature of ions and number of ions are similar. If nature of ion and number of ion will be similar or same, the conductivity reflected by them also will be similar or same. Conductivity reflected by ions will be same if the nature of ion and number of ion will be same. Nature and number. It means we are having acetic acid and hydrochloric acid. Both acid release H plus. The common thing is both acid release H plus. If both acid release H plus and number of H plus released by them are equal, suppose number of H plus released by them are equal, then conducting power reflected by H plus will be also equal for different electrolyte. That is called Coulom's law. This is also known as the law of independent migration of ions. The law of independent migration of ions means always the conductivity of electrolyte depends upon the independent migration of ions. If solution contains more than one type of ions, suppose H plus, Cl minus, so conductivity will be separately calculated for H plus and Cl minus, and total conductivity of a solution will be a sum of H plus and Cl minus ion. That is a very important theory given by him, who actually explained the role of migration of ions through the electrolyte, because we had no any idea about how to decide the electrolytic conductivity, the limiting condition for weak electrolyte, even weak electrolyte is not completely ionized. We are not knowing exactly what will be the number of ions will produce on dilution by any weak electrolyte because of the weak tendency of ionization. Due to which the Coulom's law will be a milestone for the same. We can calculate, he told that we can calculate the conductivity depending upon the independent migration of ions. H plus will decide conductivity in acetic acid and HCl or any acid which will produce H plus. The conducting power will be similar if the number of H plus will be similar. That is one of the important law we are having in electrochemistry. Next thing is about Faraday's law of electrolysis. Class, when we are going for electrolytic reaction, actually this is all about the chemical reaction occur in the electrolyte on passing electricity. We have an aim how to occur a chemical reaction. A chemical reaction will be spontaneous if we pass electricity from the outside, from external source. So conversion of electrical energy to chemical energy is one of the very important assignments in chemistry. And regarding that, we have a relationship between the charge of ion flowing and amount of metal deposited, and this relationship is given by Mr. Faraday. So we have two different laws. Faraday's law first and second law is all about the amount of electricity passing through the electrolyte that will produce the amount of mass deposited by the metal on electrodes. Simply, he told that there is a direct relation between them. The amount of charge will decide what amount of metals will deposited. For example, you can take any example from there. Suppose we are having copper plus or zinc or iron. You can take any example. Suppose we are having a FeCl3 solution. We are having FeCl3 solution and we passing electricity through the FeCl3 solution. The iron will be deposited on the metallic electrodes. So we have to be calculate what amount of mass will be deposited. So for that, FeCl3, the Fe will be in the +3 form that can accept 3 electrons to deposit iron. Fe+3 can accept 3 electrons to deposit iron. What is the atomic mass of iron? What is the atomic mass of iron? 56 gram. So you can see by passing 3 more electrons, we can deposit 56 gram of iron on the electrode. So there is simply connection. The amount of charge, the 3 mole electron, and the charge of 1 mole is called 1 Faraday. The charge of 1 mole is called 1 Faraday. Avogadro number into E. So there will be 3 Faraday. Simply you can say 3 Faraday charge when passing through. 3 Faraday charge when passing through the electrolyte, we can get a 56 gram of iron on electrodes. We can get 56 gram iron on electrodes. So by using Faraday's law, you can able to calculate the amount of mass deposited. This is all about the concept. The whole lecture is all about the only concept. But how to calculate the quotients? So let's discuss one of the question given by one of the students we have, and from exercise 3.16, question number 3.16. Let's discuss about this question to relate the Faraday's law and amount of charge and mass deposited. The question is all about 3 electrolytic cells ABC containing solution ZnSO4, silver nitrate, copper sulfate respectively are connected in series. A steady current, steady means constant, 1.5 ampere was passed through them until 1.45 gram of silver deposited at the cathode of cell B. How long did the current flow and what mass of copper and zinc were deposited? We have a full concept related to the Faraday's law. Let's discuss about that. We have three electrolytic solutions containing ZnSO4, silver nitrate, and copper sulfate. Silver nitrate and copper sulfate. A steady current of 1.5 ampere. Current 1.5 ampere. 1.5 ampere current is passing. All these are connected in series, so same current will be for all them. The current will be same for all 3 electrolytes because they are connected in series. And the other thing is 1.45 gram of silver deposited. 1.45 gram of silver deposited. Class, with the help of current, first we have to be calculate the amount of charge. So let's calculate first. For silver nitrate, Let first calculate the amount of charge required to deposit 1.45 gram of silver. For silver nitrate, there should be a silver plus that must be accept 1 gram to deposit silver 1 farad. The amount of charge is 1 farad. Anyone can tell what is the atomic mass of silver? Because I am also not knowing. What is the atomic mass of silver? Exact value. Atomic mass of silver, I think some 100. Exact not knowing. Silver atomic mass. Let us see. But you can calculate without the mass, I think, because we have idea also about that. But let's calculate first what is the mass of silver atomic mass. 108. 1 student, okay, 108. So 108 gram. The atomic mass of silver is about 108 gram. Class, listen carefully. 1 farad charge required to deposit 108 gram of silver. And there is deposition of 1.45 gram. So first calculate what amount of charge required to deposit 1.45 gram of silver. First, let's calculate this about 1 farad means 964,500 coulomb. This is the value. This is the value now. So this amount of charge required to calculate 1.45 gram of 108 gram. So for 1.45 gram, the value of the amount of charge you can calculate now. Q equal to the amount of charge will be Q equal to value 964,500 upon 108 into 1.45. This will be the value of charge, amount of charge required to deposit 1.45 gram of silver. 1.45 gram of silver. This is the value. You can calculate your own. Let's discuss about the concept again. So class, the concept is about we have I and we are knowing the formula now. Q equal to I into T. Q equal to I into T. So there will be value of Q. I is given. You can calculate how long current is passed. So you can calculate T from this given equation. From the given equation, you can calculate T. The other thing which is really very important, if time and current is constant, the Q will be constant. Have you listened? Hello? If time and current is constant, the Q will be constant. And for all series, for all electrolytes, the I will be similar and time also will be similar. Because the same time current passing through all them, the same time. That's why first you calculate the value of Q, value of Q, we'll put the value of Q, will get the value of T, and same value of Q will be here also. How will be zinc sulfate? For zinc sulfate, atomic mass of zinc here 2 farad. So value of Q. So your question will be if 2 farad charge required to deposit molar mass of zinc on electrode, so amount of charge you can calculate from here. amount of charge is given, so this amount of charge will deposit the amount of zinc on electrode. You can calculate with, by using this. Same for zinc and for copper, the charge will be similar. Same amount of charge you can be used to deposit the amount of zinc and amount of copper on the electrode. So you can calculate the amount of copper and zinc. So I am concluding my lecture here only. Tomorrow we'll discuss some more numerical concept based on Faraday's law, Nernst-Kessen, equilibrium constant. Tomorrow lecture will totally dedicated with numericals only. We'll try to conclude different numericals from the different concepts. Okay.